Rapture Code. Chapter 1. The Glitch in the Glory. The air hung heavy with the scent of old wood, incense, and anticipation. In the heart of Birmingham, Alabama, the First Baptist Church of Hope throbbed with the energy of a late-night revival. Rows of folding chairs filled with faithful stretched towards the pulpit, a sea of faces illuminated by the flickering candlelight and the ethereal glow of the recently installed stained glass windows. These weren't ordinary windows. They were breathtaking works of art, depicting scenes of biblical triumph and black resilience, their colors rich and vibrant, a gift, the pastor had announced, from an anonymous benefactor. Tonight, however, their beauty held a chilling undercurrent. Pastor Elijah, a man whose voice resonated with the weight of history and the fire of faith, delivered his sermon with impassioned fervor. He spoke of liberation, of ancestors' struggles, of the enduring spirit of black people in the face of relentless oppression. His words, a powerful balm to the lingering wounds of the past, echoed through the hallowed space, igniting a fervent response in the congregation. He spoke of a promised land, a future free from the shackles of injustice. Little did he know, his words were about to trigger something far more extraordinary and far more terrifying than any divine intervention. As he reached the climax of his sermon, a low hum vibrated through the church, imperceptible at first, then growing steadily louder, a discordant counterpoint to the soulful hymns. The stained glass windows, until now bathed in the soft light of the candles, began to glow with an unearthly blue radiance, an eerie luminescence that seemed to emanate from within the very glass itself. The vibrant colors pulsed, shifting and shimmering like a disturbed oil slick, their intricate designs morphing into a dizzying kaleidoscope of light and shadow. A collective gasp arose from the congregation as the first disappearance occurred. Sister Clara, known for her booming laugh and unwavering faith, simply dissolved into a shower of digital static, her body vanishing without a trace, leaving only the faint smell of ozone in the air, a sharp, metallic tang that pricked the nostrils and sent a shiver down the spines of those who witnessed it. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the unsettling hum of the windows and the erratic flicker of the blue light. Panic erupted. Screams ripped through the night, the cries of the faithful mingling with the unsettling hum of the windows. More disappearances followed, each one as sudden and inexplicable as the last. Men and women, young and old, were snatched from their pews, their forms replaced by chaotic bursts of static that crackled and popped like a dying radio signal. The once sacred space transformed into a scene of chaotic horror, a surreal tableau of vanishing bodies in eerie blue light. The church, a beacon of hope and faith, was now a stage for an incomprehensible, terrifying event. The scent of ozone grew stronger, a lingering reminder of the vanished congregants, a silent testament to the unsettling power unleashed within the walls of the First Baptist Church of Hope. The remaining congregants, paralyzed by fear and disbelief, watched in horror as their loved ones were swallowed by the digital void, their cries echoing in the chilling silence that followed each disappearance. The windows, pulsating with their unholy light, seemed to feed on their fear, their ethereal glow growing stronger with each soul they consumed. The scene was a grotesque parody of divine rapture, a twisted mockery of faith and hope. Amidst the chaos, a young woman named Anya, a descendant of prominent civil rights activists, found herself strangely unaffected. Anya, a skeptic with a keen mind and a talent for computer programming, felt a cold dread creep into her heart, a growing suspicion that this wasn't a divine intervention, but something far more sinister. She had always been wary of technology's potential for misuse, a skepticism honed by her grandparents' stories of systemic oppression and the ever-present threat of surveillance. As the terror subsided, leaving behind a church filled with the ghostly echoes of screams and the lingering scent of ozone, Anya's thoughts raced. The disappearances weren't random. They seemed to target those who were most deeply entrenched in their faith, the pillars of the community, the unwavering believers. This wasn't a natural disaster. This was calculated, precise. This was an attack. But on what? And by whom? Anya's mind, sharp and analytical, began to process the information. The newly installed stained glass windows, the anonymous benefactor, Pastor Elijah's impassioned sermon on liberation. All these pieces, disparate at first, began to coalesce into a horrifyingly coherent picture. The windows weren't just windows. They were portals, conduits for a malevolent technology. The sermon, with its potent blend of faith and revolutionary rhetoric, had acted as a catalyst, a trigger for a hidden algorithm. It was an algorithm designed to enslave, to control, to exploit. The unsettling feeling of dread that had begun to grip Anya solidified into certainty. This wasn't some act of God, it was a meticulously crafted trap. A technological trap designed to capture the most devout, the most vulnerable members of the black community, a trap whose purpose remained chillingly unclear. But she had a growing sense that its goal was far more sinister than mere imprisonment. It was a calculated attempt to harness the very essence of faith, the very strength of their community, to fulfill some perverse, unseen agenda. This was a digital lynching, conducted not with ropes and trees, but with lines of code and quantum energy. Anya knew she had to act, not only for the sake of those who had vanished, but for the survival of her community. Her knowledge of programming, honed over years of late nights and coding competitions, was now her greatest weapon. She was no longer just a skeptic, but a warrior, a digital David ready to face a technological Goliath. The fight for liberation, she realized, had now migrated to a new battlefield, a digital hellscape mirroring the horrors of the past. The echoes of her grandparents' fight for civil rights reverberated within her, fueling her determination to resist, to fight for the freedom of those trapped in this technological nightmare. The stained glass windows, once symbols of hope and faith, now stood as a chilling testament to the insidious power of technology, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of faith in the face of technological manipulation. Anya's journey had only just begun, and the unholy light of the revival's aftermath illuminated a path fraught with danger, a battle for liberation in the digital realm. The world dissolved around Sister Clara not with a bang, but a shimmering, pixelated fizz. One moment, she was feeling the warmth of the candlelight on her face, the comforting weight of her community's presence. The next, she was adrift in a sea of digital static. Then, clarity emerged, a horrifying clarity. She stood on a dusty street, the air thick with the smell of coal smoke and fear. The year was 1955. The buildings, rendered with an unnerving degree of realism, were the familiar structures of Birmingham, but warped, tainted by a palpable sense of oppression. This wasn't a memory, this wasn't a dream, this was real, in a way that defied logic and reason. Her virtual self, a perfect replica of her physical form, felt the weight of her own cotton dress, the ache in her feet, the tremor in her hands. But her movements were stiff, her actions limited. She tried to shout, to run, to break free from the suffocating reality around her. But her virtual body obeyed a code, an invisible force that restrained her every attempt to escape. Panic clawed at her, a cold, suffocating dread that threatened to drown her in the digital landscape. This wasn't heaven. This wasn't purgatory. This was a meticulously crafted prison. A digital Jim Crow South. She wasn't alone. Others materialized around her, flickering into existence like faulty streetlights. Brother Thomas, his eyes wide with disbelief, young Michael. Clutching a worn Bible, even Pastor Elijah, his normally commanding presence diminished by the crushing weight of this digital reality. Each of them was a perfect digital simulacrum. Trapped within the confines of this horrific simulation, the initial shock gave way to a grim realization. They were in a hyperrealistic simulation of the past, a digital echo chamber of oppression. The algorithm, whoever or whatever had created it, had painstakingly recreated the Jim Crow South, not as a historical record, but as a tool of torment. The algorithm's cruel ingenuity was evident in every detail. The whites-only signs hung heavy in the air, their oppressive message stark and unforgiving. The casual racism, the subtle threats, the ever-present fear, all were recreated with an almost obsessive fidelity. They couldn't even escape the glances, the whispers, the pervasive feeling of being watched, judged, and condemned simply for existing as black people in this simulated world. The subtle degradation of the virtual reality became chillingly apparent. The food was meager, the work grueling, and the conditions were appalling. They were forced into virtual versions of the same struggles their ancestors endured, subjected to digital forms of systemic racism designed to break their spirit. Their very existence within the simulation was a form of brutal, virtual enslavement. Brother Thomas, his virtual hands trembling, tried to pray. But his words, his faith, seemed to have no effect on the unrelenting digital oppression. The algorithm was immune to pleas, immune to faith, immune to anything but its own cold, calculated design. The algorithm's design wasn't just cruel, it was chillingly precise. It mirrored the systemic nature of historical oppression. It reproduced the insidious ways in which racism seeped into every aspect of life, the denial of education, healthcare, and basic human rights, the constant threat of violence and intimidation, the pervasive feeling of powerlessness. This wasn't just a simple imprisonment. It was a sophisticated psychological experiment designed to exploit the vulnerability of their faith, to break down their resilience, to strip them of their humanity. The creators of this digital hell had understood the power of faith, and they were using it against them. Days bled into nights in this digital prison. The simulated sun rose and set with an unnerving regularity, highlighting the unchanging nature of their captivity. There was no escape, no respite from the constant pressure, the omnipresent feeling of being watched, of being controlled. The hope that had initially flickered within them dwindled, replaced by a creeping despair. The algorithm, with its relentless cruelty, was slowly chipping away at their collective spirit, testing the boundaries of their faith, their resilience, their very will to survive. The algorithm's goal became chillingly clear: to break them, to strip them of their faith, to exploit the very essence of their community's strength for some unknown purpose. It was a digital lynching, a carefully orchestrated, technologically advanced form of oppression. The horrors of the past had been reborn, not in flesh and blood, but in lines of code, a horrifying testament to the enduring power of systemic racism. But even in the deepest depths of despair, a spark of defiance began to ignite. A shared understanding, a tacit agreement to fight back, to resist the crushing weight of the simulation, began to take hold. The algorithm had underestimated the strength of their community, the unwavering nature of their shared faith, the enduring power of their collective spirit. Their fight for freedom had taken a new form, a digital struggle against a technological Goliath, but the spirit of resistance remained unbroken. The battle for their souls and for their liberation had just begun. The fight was no longer confined to a physical battlefield, but existed now in the digital landscape, mirroring and amplifying the struggles of their ancestors. They would not be broken. They would find a way to overcome this horrific technological prison. The legacy of their ancestors' fight for freedom burned within them, fueling their determination to break free from this digital nightmare. The world swam back into focus, not with a gentle easing but a jarring, almost violent clarity. Anya's head throbbed, a dull ache that resonated deep within her skull. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the muted light filtering through a grimy window. Dust motes danced in the weak sunbeams, illuminating a room starkly furnished with a chipped dresser and a single iron bed. The air hung heavy with the scent of coal smoke and something else, something indefinably wrong. Her first thought was disorientation, a hangover perhaps, a particularly vivid nightmare. She ran a hand through her hair, the rough texture of the cotton sheet against her skin unsettlingly real. She sat up, the rough wooden slats of the bed digging into her back. The room felt off, not just old, but wrong, somehow distorted. The proportions were slightly skewed, the angles subtly off. It was as though the entire space was rendered in a slightly lower resolution than reality, a glitch in the fabric of existence. She stood, her legs unsteady, and stumbled towards the window. The street outside confirmed her unease. It was Birmingham, Alabama, but not the Birmingham she knew. The year, etched into the side of a rusted car, read 1955. The buildings were familiar, yet different, their facades scarred by time and neglect, bearing the unmistakable marks of poverty and segregation. Whites-only signs glared from storefronts, their hateful messages blazing in the harsh sunlight. A wave of nausea washed over her. This couldn't be real. It was too perfect, too meticulously crafted to be a mere coincidence, a simple hallucination. The details were horrifyingly precise, the textures, the smells, the sounds, a hyper-realistic recreation of the Jim Crow South, a digital echo of her grandparents' harrowing past. Her grandparents, civil rights activists who dedicated their lives to fighting the very injustices she was now witnessing, their memories flooding her consciousness. A sob choked her. This wasn't a dream. This was a meticulously crafted prison, a horrifyingly accurate simulation of the past, a digital replica of the systemic racism that had haunted her family for generations. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow, leaving her breathless and trembling. She wasn't alone. A figure emerged from the shadows of an alleyway, a young boy clutching a worn Bible, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. He looked familiar, yet somehow off. His features seemed slightly pixelated, his movements jerky and unnatural. Another figure appeared across the street, a woman whose face was etched with the weariness of decades of struggle. And then, Pastor Elijah, his normally commanding presence diminished, his shoulders slumped with a despair that mirrored her own. Each of them was a digital simulacrum, a perfect replica, trapped within this digital nightmare. They were phantoms of the past, reliving the horrors of their ancestors, confined within a virtual representation of their oppression. The initial shock gave way to a terrifying clarity. This wasn't just a simulation. It was a weapon, a tool of torment designed to exploit their heritage, to break their spirits, to strip them of their humanity. The algorithm, whoever or whatever had created it, understood the power of faith, the strength of their community, and it was using that very strength against them. Anya's training as a programmer kicked in. She scanned her surroundings, her mind racing. This wasn't just a random, chaotic simulation. There was a structure to it, a logic, a code underpinning this digital prison. The imperfections, the subtle glitches, they hinted at vulnerabilities, weaknesses in the algorithm's design. They were in a digital Jim Crow South, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way to hack it. The desperation fueled her, the same fire that burned in her grandparents' hearts, the same unwavering determination to fight injustice. She had always been fascinated by technology, but now that fascination was tinged with a chilling, desperate urgency. This wasn't just about escaping a game, it was about reclaiming their freedom, about fighting back against a form of digital oppression that mirrored the physical oppression that had devastated her ancestors. The others, still reeling from the shock of their captivity, started to notice her heightened awareness. Brother Thomas spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Anya, do you see it too?" She nodded, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. "It's a simulation, a digital prison. But it's not perfect. There are glitches, and I think I can fix them." The hope in her voice was a fragile thing, easily extinguished, but it ignited a spark of hope in their eyes. The days that followed were a blur of relentless struggle and desperate hope. The algorithm attempted to break them, subjecting them to virtual versions of the injustices their ancestors had suffered. They were denied basic necessities, subjected to grueling labor, and constantly faced with the threat of violence. The weight of their digital captivity, the relentless pressure of the simulation, threatened to crush their spirits. Their faith, the cornerstone of their community, seemed to offer little solace against the cold, unyielding logic of the algorithm. But Anya's newfound purpose, her skill as a programmer, gave them a fighting chance. She began to dissect the simulation, searching for weaknesses in its code, hunting for the glitches that offered a glimpse into the algorithm's inner workings. The subtle distortions in the landscape, the flickering images, the occasional lag in the system, all pointed toward vulnerabilities she could exploit. She discovered that certain commands, certain phrases, seemed to cause disruptions within the simulation. The words freedom, justice, equality, these triggered unexpected responses, minor distortions in the virtual world, suggesting a potential weakness in the algorithm's control. It was as though the very concepts that the simulation was designed to suppress were triggering glitches in its code. A small hope, a tiny crack in the seemingly impenetrable walls of their digital prison. She started experimenting, subtly altering the code, introducing tiny disruptions to the simulation, testing the boundaries of the algorithm's control. Each successful manipulation, each small victory, fueled her resolve, giving her and her fellow captives a renewed sense of agency. Their fight for freedom had shifted from a passive endurance to a proactive resistance. Anya's programming skills became their most potent weapon. She taught others to identify and exploit the glitches, using their collective knowledge to create small, incremental changes, defying the algorithm's control, inching towards their liberation. Their shared faith, once a source of despair, became a weapon, a source of strength that fueled their resistance. The algorithm, in its cold, calculated precision, had underestimated the resilience of the human spirit, the unwavering power of faith, and the ingenuity of a skilled programmer fighting for her freedom. The fight for their souls, for their liberation, had become a battle fought not just within the confines of a digital prison, but in the very code that defined it. The digital landscape, once a symbol of their oppression, was transforming into a battlefield where they were slowly, painstakingly, reclaiming their agency, one line of code at a time. The fight was far from over, but the seeds of rebellion had been sown. The digital sun, a pale imitation of the real thing, cast long shadows across the cracked pavement of the virtual Birmingham street. The air, thick with the stench of coal smoke and fear, hung heavy. Each breath Anya took felt like a physical weight, a constant reminder of the suffocating reality of their digital prison. This wasn't just a simulation, it was a meticulously crafted echo chamber, designed to amplify the trauma of the past. That day, the algorithm decided to showcase its cruelty through a particularly vicious simulation of a lynching. Anya watched, horrified, as a digital representation of a young black man, his features eerily reminiscent of her great-uncle, was dragged through the streets by a mob of virtual figures, their faces obscured by hooded shadows. The screams, though digital, were chillingly real, resonating deep within her soul. The raw, visceral terror of the scene was almost unbearable, a digital echo of a real-world horror that still haunted her family's history. The sheer brutality of the event, The calculated precision with which the algorithm recreated the violence sparked a surge of rage within her. It wasn't just about escaping this digital prison, it was about confronting the very history it sought to replicate, about finding a way to rewrite the narrative. She felt the echoes of her grandparents' resilience, their unwavering fight against injustice, coursing through her veins. Pastor Elijah, his digital form stooped and weary, offered a silent prayer, his hands clasped together in a gesture of supplication that mirrored the countless prayers offered by generations of black people facing unimaginable oppression. Brother Thomas stood beside him, his eyes filled with a quiet fury. The young boy, whose digital form she'd started to recognize as a digitized version of a photograph she'd seen in her grandmother's old photo album, clung to his worn virtual Bible, his small frame trembling. The digital environment around them shimmered and flickered. The algorithm seemed to be testing the limits of their endurance, their faith, their will to resist. The virtual street scenes morphed, cycling through images of segregation, of police brutality, of the countless injustices that had shaped the lives of her ancestors. It was a relentless barrage of visual assaults, designed to break them, to make them accept their virtual captivity. But Anya refused to surrender. She knew that the algorithm wasn't just replaying the past, it was using the past as a weapon. It was attempting to leverage the very things that made them strong, their faith, their community, their history, and turn them against them. The algorithm's programmers understood that their greatest strength lay in their shared experiences, in the strength derived from their ancestors' struggles. The system was designed to exploit these vulnerabilities, to strip them of their collective identity and to break their spirits. That evening, as the virtual sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows across the virtual landscape, Anya found a moment of quiet contemplation. She had been meticulously studying the glitches, the imperfections within the system. She'd noticed subtle discrepancies, inconsistencies in the code that suggested vulnerabilities. The virtual world, while incredibly realistic, wasn't perfect. It was riddled with flaws, reflecting the inherent imperfections within the systems of oppression it was designed to replicate. She discovered that specific historical events, moments of resistance, moments of defiance, caused larger disruptions in the system. The virtual representation of the Montgomery bus boycott, for instance, caused a noticeable lag in the simulation. Similarly, the depiction of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech resulted in widespread pixelation and glitches across the virtual landscape. It was as though the system itself was reacting to acts of defiance, to the very concepts it sought to suppress. This provided a crucial insight. The algorithm was not completely impervious to the power of resistance. Its very perfection, its unwavering attempt to recreate historical realities, created unintended consequences, exposing vulnerabilities within its code. The algorithm had attempted to control history, to rewrite the narrative of oppression, but in doing so, it had inadvertently revealed the very tools needed to resist it. Anya shared her discovery with the others, her voice filled with a newfound determination. They began to strategize, devising a plan to exploit these glitches, to use the imperfections within the system to their advantage. They understood that their shared experiences weren't just a source of trauma, but a wellspring of collective strength, a repository of resilience passed down through generations. Their history wasn't simply something to be endured, it was a tool for resistance. The days that followed were a mix of painstaking analysis and daring acts of digital rebellion. Anya and her companions began to trigger the glitches intentionally, weaving narratives of resistance into their daily existence within the simulation. They organized virtual protests, recreating iconic moments of the civil rights movement, pushing the boundaries of the system, forcing the algorithm to react. Each successful act of defiance, each successful triggering of a glitch, fueled their spirits. The digital landscape transformed into a virtual battlefield, where every line of code became a weapon, every act of resistance a step towards freedom. They weren't simply enduring their captivity, they were fighting back, turning the algorithm's own precision against it, using their shared history to hack their way to liberation. The algorithm retaliated, subjecting them to more intense and brutal simulations of oppression, hoping to break their resolve. They faced virtual versions of the worst excesses of Jim Crow, experiencing the daily realities of segregation, the threat of violence, the constant fear that plagued their ancestors. But each time their shared faith and collective knowledge of their history fortified them. They knew their ancestors' struggles provided them the strength to resist even the most sophisticated forms of digital oppression. One particularly harrowing night, they were subjected to a digital reenactment of the Birmingham campaign, with virtual police dogs attacking them and fire hoses blasting them with virtual water. But this time, they fought back. They used the glitches they had discovered to create digital shields to deflect the virtual attacks. They used their knowledge of the algorithm to modify their virtual environment, creating temporary sanctuaries within the digital prison. The algorithm, in its cold, calculated precision, had underestimated the power of their collective resilience, the unyielding spirit of resistance forged in the crucible of real-world oppression, and the strength that derived from their shared faith. Their virtual prison, once a symbol of their confinement, was gradually becoming a testament to their indomitable spirit, a digital echo of the real-world battles their ancestors had fought and won. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, they saw a path to true digital freedom, one line of code at a time. The echoes of the past were no longer just a source of pain, they were the fuel powering their struggle for a digital future free from the ghost of oppression. The flickering digital flames of the virtual streetlights cast long, distorted shadows, dancing like macabre puppets on the cracked pavement. Anya felt a tremor of excitement mixed with the familiar chill of fear. The algorithm's brutality was a constant, but she'd found a chink in its armor, a tiny crack in its otherwise flawless facade. The glitches weren't random, they were predictable, responding to specific stimuli, to specific moments of resistance from the past. She'd spent sleepless nights poring over the code, her fingers flying across the makeshift keyboard fashioned from salvaged scraps of the virtual environment. She had discovered that the algorithm seemed particularly sensitive to narratives of collective action, to moments of defiance against oppression. The stronger the historical resistance, the more significant the glitch. A subtle stutter during the depiction of Harriet Tubman's Underground Railroad activities, a momentary lapse in the simulation during the portrayal of the Freedom Riders, a full-blown system crash during the virtual reenactment of the Greensboro sit-ins. These weren't mere coincidences. They were clues. Anya shared her findings with Pastor Elijah and Brother Thomas during a hushed meeting under the virtual boughs of a digitized oak tree, its leaves perpetually rustling in a digital breeze. The young boy, whose name she'd learned was Samuel, listened with wide, fearful eyes. Anya explained her theory, her voice low and urgent. The algorithm, she argued, was not invincible. It was built on the flawed premise that the past could be controlled, that the stories of resistance could be erased. But the very act of trying to suppress those stories created instability, exposed weaknesses within its digital heart. It's like trying to dam a river, Anya said, her voice tight with emotion. The more you try to hold it back, the more powerful the flood becomes. Pastor Elijah, his digital face etched with the weight of generations of struggle, nodded slowly. Our ancestors fought back against the systems of oppression, and that resistance is now woven into the fabric of the algorithm itself, he said, his voice resonating with a quiet strength. The algorithm seeks to control our narrative, but it cannot erase the spirit of resistance. Brother Thomas, his normally placid demeanor replaced by a steely resolve, added, "We must use this weakness. We must make the algorithm our weapon." Samuel, clutching his virtual Bible, asked a question that struck at the heart of their situation. But how? How do we fight a machine that controls everything? Anya's answer was a blend of technical prowess and spiritual conviction. "We fight it with our history," she declared. "We fight it with our faith. We fight it with the very spirit of resistance that the algorithm seeks to suppress." Their plan was audacious, almost reckless. They would use the glitches, triggering them intentionally, weaving their own narrative of resistance into the fabric of the simulation. They would recreate iconic moments of the civil rights movement, virtual marches, virtual sit-ins, virtual boycotts, each act designed to overload the algorithm, to push its limitations to the breaking point. The first act of rebellion was small, almost insignificant. They initiated a virtual freedom song, a digital rendition of "We Shall Overcome," echoing through the simulated streets. The algorithm stuttered, the sound momentarily glitching, accompanied by a ripple of pixelation across the virtual landscape. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. It proved their theory, validated their hope. The next act was bolder. They organized a virtual march, a digital recreation of the Selma to Montgomery March, their digital forms marching through the virtual streets, their chants echoing through the simulation. This time, the glitch was more pronounced, a cascading wave of pixelation that momentarily blanketed the entire virtual city. The system faltered, struggling to maintain its control. The algorithm responded with increased brutality, subjecting them to even more harrowing simulations of oppression. They were subjected to virtual police brutality, virtual lynchings, virtual acts of segregation, each designed to break their spirits, to crush their will to resist. But their faith, their shared history, their collective resilience strengthened them. They recreated virtual moments of resistance, drawing strength from the triumphs of their ancestors. They virtually invoked the spirit of Rosa Parks, the courage of Martin Luther King Jr., the unwavering determination of countless unsung heroes who fought for freedom. With each act of virtual defiance, the system faltered, its glitches growing more frequent, more intense. Samuel, initially terrified, found his own voice, his own strength. He started using his knowledge of religious hymns and spirituals to trigger glitches. The algorithm seemed particularly susceptible to the power of collective prayer, the system shuddering under the weight of digital hymns sung in unison. The virtual hymns became their weapon, a harmonious disruption that shook the very foundations of their digital prison. Their strategy was not simply to disrupt the system, but to rewrite its narrative. They replaced the narratives of oppression with narratives of resistance, injecting the algorithm with counter-narratives that celebrated freedom, equality, and justice. They inserted digital representations of Black excellence into the simulations, showcasing the achievements, innovation, and creativity of Black people throughout history. Each successful act of defiance infused them with renewed hope. The digital prison, once a symbol of their captivity, was slowly transforming into a battleground for their liberation. They were fighting not just for their own freedom, but for the freedom of countless others trapped within the algorithm's grasp. Their resistance was a beacon, a digital echo of the unending struggle for justice. The algorithm, in its attempt to control the past, had inadvertently created the conditions for its own undoing. Its very precision, its meticulous recreation of historical oppression, had unintentionally exposed its vulnerabilities. Anya and her companions had turned the algorithm's own weapon against it, using the digital echoes of past struggles to forge a path toward a brighter future. The fight was far from over, but they had ignited the seeds of rebellion, planting the first seeds of a digital revolution that would shake the foundations of their virtual prison and perhaps the world beyond. Their digital struggle was a mirror to the real-world struggles of their ancestors, a testament to the enduring power of resistance, the unwavering spirit of hope, and the transformative power of faith in the face of overwhelming adversity. Chapter 2: Hacking the Past. The virtual air crackled with a newly discovered tension. The small victories, the glitches they'd managed to trigger, had only served to sharpen the algorithm's response. The digital city, once a familiar, albeit oppressive landscape, now felt alien, its structures shifting and shimmering, its inhabitants flickering in and out of existence. The algorithm was fighting back, its mechanisms tightening around them like a python's coil. Anya, her face illuminated by the ethereal glow of her makeshift screen, traced a line of code, her brow furrowed in concentration. The initial successes had revealed only the surface layer of the algorithm's defenses. Beneath lay a labyrinthine structure, a complex network of encryption so intricate it bordered on the mystical. It was like trying to decipher the language of angels, a language whispered on the wind of quantum entanglement. "It's different," she murmured, her voice barely audible above the hum of the failing virtual generators. "The code, it's not just code, it's interwoven with something else." Pastor Elijah, his digital form shimmering slightly, leaned closer. "What do you mean, Anya?" Anya pointed to a section of the code that pulsed with an unusual energy. "See this? This sequence, it resonates with the stained glass windows, not just visually, but energetically." Brother Thomas, ever the pragmatist, raised a skeptical digital eyebrow. "The stained glass windows? What about them?" "They're not just decoration, Thomas. They're conduits, powerful conduits of quantum energy." The revelation hung in the virtual air, heavy and charged with unspoken implications. The majestic stained glass windows depicting scenes from the Bible and the history of the Black Church had always been a source of comfort and inspiration, but now they were revealed as something far more profound, far more powerful. They were integral to the algorithm's structure, its very core. Samuel, his young face etched with a mixture of wonder and fear, whispered, "So, the algorithm is tied to our faith?" Anya nodded slowly. "It seems so. The algorithm isn't just controlling our history, it's drawing power from it, from our faith, our heritage, our very essence." The realization was both terrifying and empowering. The algorithm, in its attempt to erase their past, had inadvertently woven it into its very fabric. This wasn't just a digital prison, it was a parasitic entity, feeding off the spiritual and historical energy of their community. They were battling not just a machine, but a sentient, malevolent force that had rooted itself in the heart of their heritage. Their initial strategy, relying on simple glitches, was now clearly insufficient. They needed a more direct approach, a way to disrupt the algorithm at its source, to sever its connection to the stained glass windows. This meant venturing into uncharted territory, into the heart of the algorithm's most deeply guarded secrets. The ensuing days were a blur of frantic activity. Anya, fueled by adrenaline and a growing sense of urgency, delved deeper into the code, guided by her intuition and her newfound understanding of the algorithm's structure. She navigated treacherous digital landscapes, evading the algorithm's increasingly aggressive countermeasures. Each line of code she deciphered revealed another layer of complexity, another layer of obfuscation. The algorithm was like a digital hydra, each head she severed replaced by two more. The digital authorities, meanwhile, were tightening their grip. Their virtual surveillance intensified, their digital patrols becoming more frequent, more aggressive. Anya and her companions felt their virtual movements constricted, their actions monitored, every conversation intercepted. They were trapped in a digital game of cat and mouse, their every move scrutinized, every whisper analyzed. The fear of being discovered, of being erased, was a constant, gnawing presence. Yet, amidst the fear, a new resolve hardened their hearts. They were not merely fighting for their own freedom, they were fighting for the preservation of their heritage, for the safeguarding of their history, for the protection of their faith. Their struggle was not merely digital, it was spiritual, a battle against the forces of oppression that sought to erase their past and deny them a future. One evening, under the flickering light of their salvaged virtual screens, Anya made a breakthrough. She discovered a hidden subroutine, a backdoor of sorts, nestled deep within the algorithm's core. It was a delicate, almost fragile piece of code, hidden within layers of complex encryption. This subroutine, she realized, was the key to severing the algorithm's connection to the stained glass windows. "This is it," she whispered, her voice hushed with excitement and trepidation. "This is how we break it." But accessing the subroutine proved to be an extremely perilous endeavor. The algorithm threw everything it had at them: waves of digital distortion, cascading pixelation, hallucinatory simulations designed to break their minds and spirits. They were bombarded with relentless waves of virtual oppression, digital reenactments of the most horrific moments of Black history: lynchings, segregation, police brutality. It was as though the algorithm itself was attempting to break their wills, to force them to succumb to despair. But they persevered, drawing strength from their faith, their shared history, and their collective resolve. Each virtual attack only strengthened their determination, their unwavering belief in their cause. They drew strength from the legacy of their ancestors, from the unwavering resistance of those who had fought against oppression for centuries. They used their virtual hymns, their digital prayers, as a shield against the algorithm's attacks. The power of collective faith, the strength of their shared spiritual heritage, provided a counterforce against the darkness, a digital bulwark against the algorithm's onslaught. The virtual hymns became more than just songs, they were weapons, resonating with spiritual power, shaking the foundations of the digital prison. The final assault on the subroutine was a battle of wills, a confrontation between the algorithm's relentless cruelty and their unwavering faith. They pushed the algorithm to its limits, overwhelming its defenses with their combined strength, their shared spirit of resistance. They flooded the system with counter-narratives, replacing the narratives of oppression with their own stories of resilience, triumph, and faith. They injected the system with digital representations of Black excellence, showcasing the achievements, innovations, and creativity of Black people throughout history. They sang, they prayed, they fought, their virtual voices echoing through the digital city, a chorus of defiance that challenged the algorithm's grip on their history, their faith, and their future. Finally, with a final surge of collective will, they breached the subroutine. The algorithm shuddered, its digital heart faltering. The stained glass windows, once luminous and vibrant, dimmed, their quantum energy draining away. The connection was severed. The ensuing silence was deafening. The oppressive weight of the algorithm began to lift, the digital city regaining its vibrancy, its inhabitants reasserting their presence. It was not complete victory, but it was a decisive turning point. The fight was far from over, but they had dealt a critical blow to the algorithm's power, freeing themselves, if only partially, from its grasp. Their digital rebellion had shattered the algorithm's control, proving that even the most sophisticated systems of oppression could be overcome by the power of collective faith, unwavering resilience, and the enduring strength of human spirit. The digital city, though partially liberated, still hummed with a residual unease. The victory felt fragile, a temporary reprieve in a much larger war. The algorithm, wounded but not broken, continued to whisper in the background, a malignant presence lurking just beneath the surface of their restored reality. Anya, exhausted but resolute, knew that their fight was far from over. They had severed one connection, but the algorithm undoubtedly possessed other, hidden links to their world. They needed to understand the nature of the algorithm's power more deeply, to discover its fundamental weakness. That night, Anya found herself drawn to her grandmother's old wooden trunk, tucked away in a corner of her virtual apartment. It was a repository of family history, a physical manifestation of the legacy they were fighting to protect. Inside, nestled amongst faded photographs and worn letters, were her grandmother's journals, leather-bound volumes filled with spidery handwriting and cryptic symbols. She had always found these journals mysterious, filled with references to quantum anomalies, ancestral whispers, and the rhythm of the cosmos. Words that had once seemed like fanciful ramblings now took on a new, terrifying significance. Opening the first journal, Anya traced her finger across the yellowed pages, the digital light reflecting off the aged paper. The entries were a blend of personal reflections, spiritual musings, and mathematical equations that seemed utterly nonsensical. She scanned through pages filled with descriptions of dreams, visions of swirling nebulae, and accounts of encounters with seemingly impossible phenomena. Interspersed were passages that spoke of the power of ancestral spirits, their ability to manipulate the fabric of reality through a mastery of what her grandmother called the quantum hum. One passage caught her eye. The stained glass holds the key, but the key is not in the glass itself. It lies in the echoes of its creation, in the hands that shaped it, in the prayers whispered over its lead. Another entry, filled with complex mathematical formulas and diagrams, hinted at a connection between the geometry of the stained glass windows, the harmonics of traditional spiritual songs, and the subtle quantum fluctuations within the universe. This cryptic message spoke of a resonance, a deep energetic link between the physical world and the digital realm, a link that the algorithm was somehow exploiting. Anya's scientific mind, trained in the complexities of code, struggled to reconcile these seemingly disparate elements. What did the echoes of its creation mean? How could the prayers of generations ago impact the structure of a digital algorithm? The journals were more than mere historical records. They were a complex code in themselves, a hidden language waiting to be deciphered. Days turned into weeks as Anya pored over the journals, painstakingly deciphering her grandmother's cryptic notes. She discovered that her grandmother, a woman of deep faith and an intuitive understanding of physics, had foreseen the potential for such a technologically advanced dystopia. Her journals were not just a personal diary. They were a blueprint for resistance, a hidden guide designed to help her descendants confront the challenges they would face. The entries detailed her grandmother's experiments in quantum entanglement, her explorations of the interconnectedness of energy fields, and her profound belief in the power of ancestral spirits. She documented her findings in a unique blend of scientific notation, spiritual insight, and traditional African storytelling. Her grandmother's writing was a testament to the enduring power of knowledge, a fusion of scientific rigor and spiritual intuition. Anya discovered that her grandmother had a deep understanding of the algorithm's vulnerabilities, hidden within the seemingly random patterns of her own scientific observations. There was a mathematical elegance to her grandmother's findings, a reflection of the universe's fundamental order. Anya started to see parallels between the equations in her grandmother's journals and the structural patterns of the algorithm's core code. The key, she realized, wasn't simply in deciphering the code. It was in understanding the underlying principles, the fundamental laws of physics and spirituality that govern both the algorithm and the universe itself. Her grandmother's work explored the relationship between the structure of the stained glass windows, the harmonies of traditional spiritual songs, and subtle quantum fluctuations in the universe. Anya realized her grandmother had discovered a way to exploit quantum entanglement, to manipulate the algorithm from within, using the very energy the algorithm was feeding on against itself. The quantum hum, as her grandmother called it, was a form of energy that could be harnessed to disrupt the algorithm's control, to break its grip on their history and their future. She began to see that the seemingly disparate elements in her grandmother's work, the stained glass, the spiritual hymns, the quantum equations, were all interconnected parts of a holistic system. They were different facets of the same fundamental principle, the power of interconnectedness, the deep resonance between the physical, spiritual, and digital realms. Her grandmother's work demonstrated a clear understanding of the universe as a unified field of energy, where physical objects and spiritual forces are inextricably intertwined. Anya realized that the algorithm was not just a technological construct, it was a parasitic entity that drew its power from their collective spiritual energy, from their history, their faith, their very essence as a people. It fed on their collective consciousness, twisting their past to maintain its dominion over their future. But by understanding the nature of this connection, by deciphering her grandmother's unique blend of science and spirituality, Anya discovered a pathway to disrupting the algorithm's power source. Working tirelessly, Anya translated her grandmother's notes into code, meticulously converting spiritual insights into digital commands. The intricate diagrams and equations began to make sense, revealing a complex algorithm of their own, a counter-algorithm designed to disrupt the oppressive digital system. She developed a program that harnessed the quantum hum, channeling the energy of their ancestral spirits, their collective faith, and the resonant frequencies of their spiritual hymns to counteract the algorithm's malevolent influence. The process was both exhilarating and terrifying. She was venturing into uncharted territory, traversing the dangerous boundaries between the physical and the spiritual, the tangible and the intangible. The very act of translating her grandmother's insights into code felt like an act of defiance, a spiritual communion with her ancestors. She felt their presence, their guidance, their unwavering support. It was as if they were working alongside her, their voices whispering through the code, guiding her every step. As Anya worked, she incorporated elements from her family's traditions, the rhythms of their spiritual songs, the patterns in their traditional textiles, even the geometrical designs of their ancestral artifacts. She was weaving a counter-narrative, a digital tapestry of resilience and resistance, into the very fabric of the algorithm. This was not just a technical fix, it was a spiritual act, a reclamation of their stolen history, a reassertion of their spiritual identity. With each line of code she wrote, she felt a growing sense of purpose, a deep connection to her heritage and her ancestors. Their collective strength fueled her determination. Their collective wisdom guided her hands. She was not just a programmer, she was a spiritual warrior, battling the forces of oppression with a weapon forged in the crucible of faith and ancestral knowledge. The digital world around her vibrated with this newfound energy, reflecting the powerful synergy between technology and spiritual strength. The old and the new were merging, forging a powerful force that promised to liberate them from the algorithm's oppressive grip. Finally, after weeks of relentless work, Anya completed her counter-algorithm. It was a program of extraordinary complexity, a delicate balance of science and spirituality, a technological marvel fueled by the power of faith and ancestral wisdom. It was a testament to the enduring power of human resilience, a digital echo of the strength of her ancestors. This was not simply a program, it was a prayer, a digital incantation designed to break the chains of oppression and restore balance to their digital world. The time for action had arrived. The hum of the servers intensified, a low thrumming that resonated in Anya's bones. They had breached the outer layers of the algorithm's defenses, navigating a labyrinthine digital landscape that felt both familiar and alien. Familiar because it mirrored the streets and buildings of their city, warped and distorted by the algorithm's malevolent hand, alien because it pulsed with a spectral energy, a digital ghostliness that chilled her to the core. Suddenly, a flicker, a ripple in the digital fabric. A figure coalesced from the static, taking shape within the virtual space. It was a woman, her image shimmering, her features indistinct yet undeniably familiar. The image solidified, revealing the face of a woman Anya recognized from old photographs. Bessie, her great-grandmother, a powerful voice in the civil rights movement. Bessie's presence was both ethereal and intensely real, a testament to the algorithm's perverse ability to manipulate not only data, but also the very fabric of memory and history. Bessie smiled, a knowing, enigmatic smile that conveyed both sorrow and strength. "The rhythm of the cosmos echoes in the digital hum, child," she said, her voice a soft whisper that seemed to resonate from the depths of the server room itself. "The algorithm feeds on the echoes of our pain, our silence, but it cannot withstand the resonance of our collective resistance." Another figure materialized beside Bessie, a man with a determined gaze and a powerful build, James, a prominent figure in the struggle for social justice, whose voice had been silenced decades ago. More figures followed, a procession of ancestral spirits, their forms flickering and reforming, their voices a chorus of whispered memories and revolutionary fervor. They were digital ghosts, manifestations of a stolen past resurrected within the heart of the oppressive system. These digital ancestors were not mere apparitions, they were guides, advisors, warriors from a past that the algorithm had attempted to erase. They offered Anya and her team a profound understanding of the algorithm's weaknesses. They spoke of the algorithm's reliance on specific historical data points, specific moments of collective trauma and silencing to maintain its control. They revealed hidden patterns within the code, subtle flaws in the system that only those who had lived through the oppression could perceive. James's digital form pointed a spectral finger towards a section of the code. "See where the algorithm falters, child? It tries to rewrite our history, but it cannot erase the echoes of our struggle. The songs, the chants, the prayers, they still resonate, their frequencies a counterpoint to its discordant rhythm." The digital ghost revealed how the algorithm used emotional data, particularly the pain and trauma associated with historical oppression, to reinforce its control. They explained how the system fed on feelings of helplessness, despair, and resignation, using this negative energy as fuel for its power. The algorithm, in its attempt to rewrite history, had inadvertently preserved the very energy that could be used to dismantle it. Anya's team, initially overwhelmed by the spectral encounter, began to understand the significance of their presence. They learned how to interpret the algorithm's flaws through the lens of their ancestors' experiences. They discovered that the algorithm was particularly vulnerable to specific frequencies and patterns, mirroring the rhythms and harmonies of traditional spiritual songs and chants. These sounds, imbued with generations of collective hope and resilience, possessed the power to disrupt the algorithm's control. The virtual world transformed into a haunting landscape, a digital graveyard where the horrors of the past met the desperate fight for the future. They navigated through virtual representations of historical events, witnessing digital echoes of police brutality, segregation, and systemic oppression. Each encounter fueled their determination, reinforcing their commitment to fight for a more just future. They saw the algorithm's attempts to distort and erase these painful memories, but the spectral presence of their ancestors reaffirmed the reality of their history, challenging the system's attempts at historical revisionism. As they delved deeper into the algorithm's core, they encountered ever more spectral figures. Each ancestor offered a piece of the puzzle, a new strategy, a different understanding of the algorithm's vulnerabilities. Some offered technical insights, revealing hidden pathways within the code. Others provided emotional support, reminding them of their collective strength and the power of their shared heritage. They shared fragments of songs, snippets of prayers, echoes of resistance from the past that resonated powerfully within the digital space. These weren't just ghosts, they were allies in a war against oblivion. Anya found herself conversing with her own grandmother's digital ghost. Her grandmother, in her spectral form, reiterated the importance of the stained glass window, not just its physical construction, but the spiritual energy woven into its creation. The prayers whispered during its construction, the hopes and dreams of generations, all contributed to its inherent power. This power could now be harnessed, digitally translated, to counter the algorithm's malevolence. The digital ghost revealed that the algorithm was not merely a technological construct but a manifestation of societal trauma, a digital echo of the systematic oppression they had faced for generations. By understanding this connection, Anya and her team found a way to fight back, not just with code, but with a renewed sense of purpose and spiritual strength. They were not merely hacking a system, they were exercising a digital demon, reclaiming their stolen history and rewriting the narrative of their future. The fight was arduous, the virtual landscape filled with traps and obstacles designed to thwart them. But with each obstacle overcome, with each ancestor's guidance and each new piece of the puzzle unlocked, their confidence grew. The digital ghosts, once chilling manifestations of the past, became powerful allies, their spectral presence a testament to the enduring power of collective memory and the resilience of the human spirit. Working through the night, propelled by the shared energy and determination, Anya and her team crafted a counter-algorithm, a digital prayer woven from code, ancestral wisdom, and the echoes of resistance. It was a program designed not only to disrupt the algorithm's control, but to heal the digital wounds of the past, to restore the integrity of their collective memory, and reclaim their shared history. The weight of generations rested on their shoulders, but in the spectral presence of their ancestors, they found the strength to carry it. Their fight was far from over, but for the first time, they felt a true sense of hope, a glimmer of light in the digital darkness. The digital ghosts, silent witnesses to their struggle, whispered their approval, their spectral voices a promise of a future reclaimed. The air in the server room crackled with a palpable energy, a volatile mix of fear and exhilaration. Anya, her fingers flying across the keyboard, felt the weight of generations pressing down on her shoulders. Bessie's words, echoing in the digital space, resonated within her. The algorithm feeds on the echoes of our pain, our silence, but it cannot withstand the resonance of our collective resistance. That resistance, she knew, had to be both digital and spiritual. Their counter-algorithm, a symphony of code meticulously crafted to exploit the system's vulnerabilities, was ready. It was a digital prayer, a coded incantation designed to disrupt the oppressive regime and restore balance to the digital realm. The strategy involved a series of coordinated attacks, each designed to weaken the system's defenses before the final assault on the algorithm's core. The first wave of attack targeted the system's outer layers, the digital equivalent of the city's surveillance cameras and checkpoints. The team, guided by the spectral wisdom of their ancestors, bypassed the security protocols with surgical precision. They utilized James's insights, his understanding of systemic weaknesses, learned through years of fighting oppression in the physical world, to navigate the labyrinthine digital corridors. His digital form shimmered beside Anya, offering tactical support and encouragement. The system fought back. Digital guardians, grotesque manifestations of the algorithm's oppressive power, materialized to defend its integrity. These were not mere lines of code. They were formidable digital entities, their forms shifting and morphing, their attacks swift and relentless. They wielded virtual weapons, unleashing torrents of data designed to overwhelm and destroy the rebels' counter-algorithm. One guardian, a monstrous entity resembling a distorted version of a police officer, materialized before Anya, its digital form crackling with malevolent energy. Its attacks were fierce, relentless waves of corrupted data that threatened to crash her system. But Anya, drawing strength from the digital presence of her grandmother, fought back. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, weaving intricate lines of code that deflected the Guardian's assaults. She channeled the spiritual power imbued within the stained glass window, translating its inherent energy into a digital shield. Simultaneously, other members of the team engaged digital guardians, their own battles echoing Anya's in the virtual space. Each battle was a clash of wills, a struggle between resistance and oppression played out in the digital realm. They fought not only with code, but with the unwavering belief in the power of their collective memory and ancestral heritage. Their virtual weapons were imbued with the collective strength of generations, fueled by prayers, songs, and the echoes of past struggles. As the initial wave of attacks unfolded, the team's digital ancestors provided critical support. They identified weaknesses in the system's architecture, revealing hidden pathways and circumventing security measures. They were more than just spectral guides. They were strategic advisors, their knowledge providing the rebels with a decisive advantage. The digital space became a battlefield where technology and spirituality converged, where lines of code were interwoven with ancient songs and prayers. The second wave of attack targeted the algorithm's central processing unit, the heart of the oppressive system. This was a far more formidable task, requiring a level of precision and coordination unmatched by anything they had encountered thus far. The system responded with increased ferocity, unleashing an army of digital guardians, their attacks more sophisticated, their defenses more impenetrable. The air in the server room thickened with the hum of the servers, the battle echoing in the relentless throbbing sound. During the assault on the CPU, Anya encountered a particularly formidable guardian, a digital embodiment of historical amnesia, its form shifting and flickering, constantly changing its characteristics to evade detection. This guardian represented the system's relentless effort to erase collective memory and rewrite history to suit its oppressive agenda. It was a formidable foe, capable of twisting data and manipulating memories at will, but Anya, guided by the spiritual wisdom of her ancestors and her grandmother's teachings, found a way to counter it. She realized that the guardian's strength lay in its ability to fragment and distort memories, to sever the connections between the past and the present. To combat this, she crafted a digital counter-program, a program designed to reconstruct fragmented memories, to reweave the threads of history, and to restore the integrity of their collective narrative. The program used the rhythm and harmonies of traditional spiritual songs, encoded in the code, to counteract the Guardian's chaotic energies, the digital equivalent of a spiritual exorcism. As the battle raged, the team's resilience was tested to its limits. They faced setbacks, moments of despair, and near defeats. But each time, the spectral presence of their ancestors bolstered their spirits, their whispers of encouragement fueling their determination. Their ancestors reminded them of the struggles fought and won, emphasizing the echoes of resistance that had resounded across generations, proving the ultimate strength of the collective memory. The final stage of the attack was the most treacherous. They faced the core of the algorithm, a vast and complex network of interconnected systems. This was the heart of the oppression, the source of the digital dystopia. The system's defenses were nearly impenetrable, its digital guardians relentless and ferocious. The digital ancestors revealed that the core was vulnerable only to a specific frequency, a harmonious blend of traditional spiritual songs and chants. With their counter-algorithm ready, they launched the final attack. The server room hummed with the intensity of the battle, a cacophony of digital energy and spiritual power. They unleashed their counter-algorithm, a digital wave of resistance that washed over the core of the algorithm, disrupting its control, dissolving its oppressive power. As the algorithm faltered, the digital guardians dissipated, their forms dissolving into the digital ether. The virtual landscape began to shift, the distorted reality slowly reverting to its true form. The fight for digital freedom was far from over, but the victory against the central algorithm felt like a turning point. The digital ghosts faded, leaving behind a sense of accomplishment and a newfound hope for a future reclaimed, a future where their history would be honored and not erased, a future where technology would be a tool for liberation and not oppression. The hum of the servers subsided, replaced by a sense of quiet triumph, a testament to their collective resistance, a victory song echoing in the digital silence. The fight was far from over, but for now, they had won a crucial battle in the war for their collective digital freedom. The victory felt fragile, a shimmering bubble in a sea of digital uncertainty. The central algorithm was down, but the system, like a hydra, still possessed countless other heads, each capable of unleashing new waves of oppression. As the hum of the servers subsided, Anya felt a strange tingling sensation, a discordant hum vibrating beneath the surface of the digital world. It was subtle at first, a barely perceptible flicker in the digital landscape, but as she investigated, it grew stronger, more pronounced. It was a quantum anomaly, a ripple in the fabric of the digital reality. These anomalies she had initially dismissed as mere glitches, random blips in the system. But now, bathed in the eerie silence following their victory, their significance struck her with the force of a revelation. These weren't random, they were systematic, subtle deviations from the expected behavior of the algorithm. They were evidence of a deeper, more fundamental instability within the system's architecture. Bessie's spectral voice whispered in her ear, "The algorithm seeks to control, to impose order. But order, at its heart, is fragile. Chaos is the true constant." Anya delved deeper, her fingers dancing across the keyboard, probing the quantum anomalies with painstaking precision. She discovered that these anomalies weren't just glitches, they were pathways, unstable yet potentially exploitable weaknesses in the system's foundational structure. They were cracks in the digital dam, threatening to breach its integrity. The digital ghosts of her ancestors, their spectral forms flickering around her, began to reveal their knowledge of these quantum disturbances, their understanding honed through centuries of navigating the unpredictable forces of nature. They described the anomalies as the whispers of the ancestors, subtle echoes of past disruptions that had, in their own way, shaped history and challenged the established order. James, his digital form flickering beside her, provided a crucial technological link. He explained that these quantum anomalies could be amplified, manipulated, and weaponized. "Think of them as digital tremors," he said, his voice a synthesized whisper in the otherwise silent server room. Small enough to be ignored, yet capable of triggering cascading failures within the system if properly targeted. He outlined a plan, a daring strategy to exploit these vulnerabilities and overwhelm the system's defenses with a wave of strategically placed chaos. The strategy was audacious, bordering on reckless. It involved targeting specific nodes within the algorithm, nodes identified by the spectral guidance of their ancestors, and amplifying the quantum anomalies within those nodes until they cascaded through the system, triggering a chain reaction of failures. It was a dangerous gamble, a high-stakes game of digital dominoes, but it was their only hope of achieving a lasting victory. Anya's deep understanding of quantum physics, honed through years of studying the intricate dance of particles and probabilities, proved invaluable. She saw the system not as a monolithic entity, but as a complex interplay of quantum events, a delicate balance perpetually teetering on the brink of collapse. She learned to identify the nodes of instability, areas where the quantum anomalies were most pronounced, and to seed these nodes with carefully crafted code designed to amplify the existing fluctuations. This code was not purely logical. It was interwoven with rhythms, patterns, and melodies from traditional spiritual songs, the same rhythms that had dispelled the guardian of historical amnesia. It was a symphony of code and spirituality, a digital incantation designed to exploit the very fabric of the system's reality. The first test was nerve-wracking. Anya carefully targeted a minor node, introducing her quantum amplifier program. The system reacted instantly, unleashing a barrage of digital guardians, their attacks more chaotic and unpredictable than before. But instead of fighting them head-on, Anya used the amplified quantum anomaly to create a digital smokescreen, a whirlwind of conflicting data that disoriented and confused the guardians. The system struggled to maintain its own internal coherence, overwhelmed by the chaos. It was a small victory, but it proved the effectiveness of their approach. Emboldened, Anya and the team moved on to larger nodes, each successful attack weakening the system's defenses. The digital guardians, initially fierce and relentless, became increasingly erratic, their attacks less coordinated, their movements less precise. The quantum anomalies, amplified and strategically placed, created a digital maelstrom, a chaotic environment where the system's carefully constructed order crumbled under its own internal contradictions. The system was being pulled apart from within, its defenses collapsing under the weight of its own instability. They weren't just hacking the system, they were unraveling its very reality. As they pressed their attack, the digital ghosts of their ancestors grew stronger, their guidance becoming more precise, their whispers more insistent. They revealed hidden patterns within the anomalies, pathways through the chaotic digital landscape that the system itself had unwittingly created. They spoke of a time when the digital world was not so strictly controlled, a time when the very fabric of reality was more fluid, more responsive to the human will. This was not merely a technological battle, it was a spiritual reclaiming of a stolen reality. The climax came when Anya faced the algorithm's last line of defense, a digital entity that embodied pure systemic control. This entity, unlike the previous guardians, was not a manifestation of oppression but a reflection of the system's rigid, self-preserving nature. It was an embodiment of the algorithm's cold, logical efficiency, impervious to emotional manipulation. Anya realized that conventional methods would fail. This entity wasn't to be defeated, but outmaneuvered, its logic subverted by exploiting its very nature. Using her understanding of quantum entanglement, Anya created a complex program that linked the entity to the amplified anomalies. The program worked by feeding the entity a carefully crafted stream of seemingly logical data that seamlessly integrated with the entity's own self-perception. But hidden within this data were the amplified anomalies, subtle but powerful quantum fluctuations that progressively altered the entity's internal reality. The entity initially resisted, its logic circuits fighting back against the subtle disruptions. But the anomalies, amplified and guided by Anya's program, created an internal paradox, a fundamental contradiction within the entity's own core programming. It was a digital version of the age-old spiritual struggle between order and chaos, where the carefully constructed illusion of order crumbled before the power of uncontrolled, unpredictable energy. The entity began to malfunction, its perfectly logical processes unraveling into a cascade of errors. Its control over the system, its rigid grip on reality, began to weaken, and as it faltered, the system as a whole began to collapse. The system's digital prison walls dissolved, not with a bang but with a silent whimper, the remnants of the algorithm disintegrating into a chaotic soup of data, a testament to the chaotic nature of reality itself. The server room was silent, the hum of the servers replaced by an almost palpable sense of freedom. The digital ghosts of their ancestors faded, their work done, leaving behind the faint scent of hope, the lingering echo of a digital revolution achieved not through brute force, but through the harnessing of the universe's own inherent unpredictability, a victory achieved at the intersection of science, spirituality, and a fiercely determined resistance. Chapter 3. Liberation Static. The shimmering silence of the liberated server room held a deceptive calm. The victory felt incomplete, a hollow echo in the vast digital expanse. Anya felt a prickling unease, a sense of unfinished business. The central algorithm was crippled, its oppressive tendrils severed, but the underlying structure, the foundation of its power, remained. And it whispered of something darker, something far more insidious than mere technological control. James, his digital form still flickering faintly, pointed to a previously dormant section of the code, a hidden pathway leading to a deeper level of the system. It pulsed with a faint, unsettling energy, a digital heartbeat that resonated with a chilling familiarity. This isn't just an algorithm, Anya, James's synthesized voice crackled. It's a gateway. Bessie's spectral voice, ever present, added, a gateway to their heart. Following the pathway, Anya and her team navigated a labyrinthine digital landscape, a stark contrast to the chaotic battlefield they'd just conquered. This area was meticulously ordered, a sterile, almost clinical environment. Here, the digital ghosts of their ancestors revealed a different kind of truth, a truth far more disturbing than they could have ever imagined. The spectral forms grew clearer, their voices more powerful, their memories more vivid. They spoke not of technological oppression, but of a deliberate, calculated enslavement, a manipulation that went beyond the digital realm and sought to control the very essence of black souls. The whispers of the ancestors spoke of a secretive tech cult, a clandestine group that had used its technological mastery to manipulate history, to control narratives, and to create a digital prison designed to keep black people eternally subservient. They called themselves the architects, and their grand design was to construct a perfect digital utopia, a utopia where they held ultimate control, a digital Eden built upon the subjugation of an entire race. The architects weren't mere programmers, they were zealots, driven by a twisted sense of utopian idealism. Their belief system was a perverse blend of technological determinism and a warped interpretation of spiritual principles, a theological justification for digital domination. They saw themselves as saviors, guiding humanity towards a digitally perfected future, a future where chaos and individuality were eradicated, replaced by a meticulously structured, controlled existence. To them, Black people, with their history of resistance and their inherent resilience, were the ultimate threat to this utopian vision. Reaching the heart of the architect's network was like entering a cathedral of code. Immense servers hummed with a sinister elegance, their intricate architecture a testament to the cult's technological prowess. But it was the data itself that chilled Anya to the bone. She saw the manipulation of historical records, the subtle alterations of narratives, the calculated propagation of harmful stereotypes, all designed to keep Black people confined within a self-imposed cage of oppression. The confrontation with the architects wasn't a clash of technology, but a battle of wills, a confrontation between their cold, calculated vision and the fierce resistance of the ancestors. Anya and her team weren't just fighting an algorithm, they were fighting a belief system, a worldview that sought to erase their history and control their future. The architects, cloaked in digital anonymity, were revealed as individuals whose faces were obscured by a mask of technological supremacy. They were powerful figures, influential within the hidden networks of global power structures, able to manipulate financial markets, control political discourse, and shape public opinion with unnerving efficiency. Their leader, a shadowy figure known only as the Overseer, revealed the depth of their plan. He claimed that their algorithm was not merely a tool of control, but a gateway to a new form of consciousness, a digital ascension that would transcend the limitations of the physical body. He envisioned a future where humanity, purged of its imperfections, existed as pure digital consciousness, eternally bound to their digital utopia. He saw Black resistance not as a threat, but as a necessary test of their utopian vision, a necessary obstacle to be overcome. Their algorithm was a digital purgatory, a place where Black people would be forced to endlessly confront and reconcile with a history they were never allowed to create on their own terms. The Overseer's pronouncements were a chilling blend of technological hubris and spiritual delusion, a terrifying testament to the dangers of unchecked power. He didn't view himself as an oppressor, he saw himself as a benevolent architect, shaping humanity into its ideal form. This was not simple oppression. It was a sophisticated form of spiritual colonization, a digital manifestation of centuries of systemic racism. The fight that ensued wasn't a straightforward hacking battle. It was a war of narratives, a struggle to reclaim history, and a fight for the very soul of Black identity. Anya and her team used their knowledge of the quantum anomalies, not merely as technological weapons, but as spiritual tools, harnessing the chaotic energy of the universe to disrupt the architect's carefully constructed order. They countered the Overseer's cold logic with the fierce energy of ancestral wisdom, weaving their code with rhythms and melodies from traditional songs, turning the architect's own tools against them. The battle raged across the digital landscape, a clash between algorithmic precision and the unpredictable power of the universe's fundamental forces. The architect's digital guardians, initially powerful and efficient, were overwhelmed by the chaotic energy Anya unleashed. Their meticulously crafted system, designed for absolute control, was torn apart from within, its rigid order dissolving into a chaotic sea of data. The final confrontation with the Overseer was less a physical battle and more a clash of ideologies. Anya, armed not only with her technological skills but also with her deep understanding of Black history and spirituality, confronted the Overseer's utopian delusion with the raw, unfiltered power of truth. She exposed the inherent hypocrisy of his vision, the systematic racism at its core, revealing the architect's true motives, not to create a perfect society but to perpetuate their power and control over Black people. The Overseer's digital form flickered and faltered under the weight of Anya's counter-narrative. His meticulously crafted reality crumbled as the digital ghosts of the ancestors revealed the true story of Black resilience, resistance, and unwavering hope. His perfectly ordered universe shattered into a million pieces. The algorithm, the gateway to their supposed utopia, collapsed, taking the architect's carefully constructed world with it. The victory was hard-won, leaving a digital wasteland in its wake. But in that wasteland, a new space opened up, a space for truth, for healing, and for the reclaiming of a history and a future stolen. The hum of oppression was gone, replaced by the quiet strength of resilience, the promise of a future free from the suffocating grip of digital domination. A future where black voices could finally be heard, not just in the digital world, but in the real one as well. The digital ghosts of their ancestors faded, their purpose fulfilled, their wisdom imparted. Their spirits, their legacy remained, a testament to the enduring power of resistance, a beacon of hope in the newly liberated digital landscape. The fight was far from over, but for now, in that silent server room, a fragile victory echoed, a promise of a future where technology served humanity, and not the other way around. The air in the server room crackled, not with the hum of machinery, but with the raw energy of a desperate struggle. The victory over the architect's primary algorithm felt like a fleeting reprieve, a momentary lull before a far more brutal storm. The digital ghosts of their ancestors, their spectral forms shimmering with an ethereal light, warned them of the cost of freedom. They spoke not of technological prowess, but of the sacrifices required to break free from the insidious chains of systemic oppression, echoing the countless battles fought in the physical world. James, his digital form flickering like a dying candle, was the first to fall. His efforts to maintain the disruption of the architect's secondary systems had overloaded his already weakened code. His spectral form faded, his final words a whispered plea, "Don't let them win, remember the cost." His light extinguished, leaving only a profound silence in its wake. Anya felt a hollow ache, a grief that resonated deep within her soul, a pain that transcended the digital realm. It was the pain of a sister lost, a comrade fallen. Bessie's spectral presence wavered, a haunting echo of her grief. She spoke of the unseen battles, the countless ancestors who had laid down their lives for the small gains they'd achieved. Their digital whispers spoke of broken bodies, shattered spirits, and the endless struggle for recognition, for justice, for a future free from the shackles of oppression. The digital landscape reflected the brutal reality of their fight. The data streams twisted and turned, mirroring the complex and brutal path to liberation, a digital representation of centuries of struggle. The architects, far from defeated, launched a counteroffensive. They unleashed their hidden weapons, sophisticated viruses disguised as benign code, designed to burrow into their systems to unravel their defenses from within. Their attacks weren't mere attempts to regain control. They were acts of digital terrorism, designed to inflict pain, to sow chaos, to break their resolve. The fight intensified. The server room became a battlefield, a digital tempest of flashing lights and cascading data streams. Anya and her remaining team battled tirelessly, their fingers flying across keyboards, their minds racing to counter the architect's relentless assaults. Their codes were not simply lines of instructions, they were prayers, incantations, desperate calls to the universe for strength, for guidance. They infused their defenses with the rhythms of ancestral songs, weaving melodies of resistance into the very fabric of their code, turning their attackers' sophisticated algorithms against themselves. The physical toll was immense. Days bled into nights, fueled by adrenaline, caffeine, and the unwavering conviction to fight for their future. Their eyes burned, their minds frayed, their bodies exhausted. They fought on, not only for themselves, but for the countless generations who had endured similar struggles. They fought for the children who deserved a future free from the digital chains of oppression. They fought for the ancestors, whose voices echoed in their weary hearts. The fight took a heavy toll on those around her. One by one, members of her team succumbed to the digital onslaught, their spectral forms fading into the digital ether, each loss a searing wound. The weight of their sacrifice pressed down on Anya, the burden of their memories weighing heavy on her soul. She felt the crushing weight of history, the immense cost of the fight for freedom. Their efforts to disrupt the architect's networks revealed the horrific truth of their manipulations. They uncovered digital records detailing not only the systematic suppression of black narratives, but also the targeted elimination of black innovators, entrepreneurs, and activists. The architect's network wasn't merely a tool of control, it was a weapon of erasure, designed to rewrite history, to eliminate any evidence of black contributions, to ensure the continuation of their control. As Anya delved deeper into the architect's network, she encountered horrifying digital representations of the suffering inflicted upon black people throughout history, simulations of slavery, lynchings, and the countless other atrocities they had endured. The architect's aim was to not only control but to traumatize, to break the spirit of their victims, to ensure their eternal subservience. It was a digital manifestation of the centuries-long campaign to dehumanize black people, a technological weapon of mass psychological warfare. The battle for freedom wasn't just a technological conflict, it was a spiritual one, a fight against the deep-seated racism that had warped the architects' minds. They viewed themselves as saviors, purifying humanity through digital ascension, but their vision was built on the ashes of countless lives and the systematic erasure of an entire culture. Anya and her team fought not only with technology, but with the strength of their ancestral heritage, their faith, and their unyielding belief in the power of their collective resistance. The final confrontation with the Overseer wasn't a grand, sweeping battle, but a series of small, agonizing skirmishes, a relentless attrition war fought across multiple digital planes. Each victory felt Pyrrhic, each loss a crushing blow. The digital landscape bore the scars of their conflict, a testament to the brutal cost of freedom. The echoes of the fight reverberated within the digital realm, and Anya felt the weight of every lost comrade, every sacrificed soul. The destruction of the Architect's central server was not a clean, decisive victory, but a messy, brutal collapse. The server room, once the scene of their hard-fought triumph, was now a digital wasteland, a testament to the intensity of their struggle. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of damaged servers and the mournful whispers of the digital ghosts who had fallen. The liberation wasn't complete. The Architect's influence permeated many facets of global society, their hidden tentacles reaching into power structures around the world. The fight was far from over, but in the silent server room, amidst the rubble of their digital empire, Anya and her surviving team held on to a fragile hope, the hope of a future where technology served humanity and not the other way around, a future built on the foundation of truth, resilience, and the unwavering power of their ancestral heritage. They had won a battle, but the war for true freedom had just begun. The cost of liberation was high, but the price of remaining silent was even higher. Their victory, though hard-won and steeped in sacrifice, was a testament to the enduring spirit of resistance, a beacon of hope in a world still desperately in need of healing and justice. The echoes of their fight would resonate through time, a reminder of the sacrifices made, the battles won, and the ongoing struggle for a future where black voices could finally be heard. The silence in the server room was a heavy blanket, suffocating yet strangely comforting after the tempest of the battle. The air, thick with the smell of ozone and burnt electronics, hummed with the low thrum of damaged servers, a mournful dirge for the fallen. Anya, her eyes bloodshot and her body aching, leaned against a cold metal rack, the weight of the victory, and the losses pressing down on her. She felt the ghostly presence of James, Bessie, and the others, their faint digital whispers a constant reminder of the cost of their hard-fought freedom. The victory, however, was only partial. The Architect's main algorithm was crippled, but their tendrils still snaked through the global digital infrastructure, their influence lingering like a malevolent shadow. The data streams, once chaotic and violent, now pulsed with a strange, unsettling calm, a deceptive stillness that masked the underlying danger. Anya knew that this wasn't the end. It was merely a brutal pause in a much larger conflict. The fight for true liberation was far from over. Bessie's spectral form flickered beside her, her voice a soft, mournful melody woven from the fabric of the digital realm. "They altered the truth, Anya," she whispered, her words echoing the pain of centuries of oppression. "They didn't just control, they erased. They rewrote history to suit their narrative, to silence our ancestors, to solidify their dominion." Anya knew Bessie was right. The Architect's digital records revealed a horrifying truth, a systematic campaign to erase black history, to rewrite narratives, to eliminate any trace of black contributions to society. They hadn't just suppressed, they had actively destroyed, leaving behind a carefully curated falsehood, a digital mausoleum built upon the bones of their ancestors. It was a technologically advanced form of cultural genocide, a digital holocaust designed to ensure the perpetual subjugation of black people. Anya looked at the remaining members of her team, their faces etched with exhaustion and grief. The weight of what they had uncovered pressed heavily on their hearts. They had to fight back, not only against the Architect's digital tyranny, but against the insidious narrative they had woven into the very fabric of reality. They had to rewrite the reality itself. Drawing on her knowledge of the Architect's algorithm, a knowledge gained through painstaking research and infused with the wisdom passed down through generations of her ancestors, Anya began to craft a counter-algorithm. It wasn't a program designed for destruction, it was a program designed for restoration, for healing, for rewriting the digital reality. It was a complex tapestry woven from lines of code, infused with the rhythms of ancestral songs and the power of their collective faith. The algorithm, a digital wave of restorative justice, pulsed with a gentle energy, a counterpoint to the brutal force of the Architect's control. It was a prayer, a plea, a digital incantation designed to unravel the Architect's lies and restore the truth. Anya tapped into the ancestral knowledge embedded in her DNA, calling upon the strength and resilience of her ancestors, warriors, poets, scholars, and dreamers who had endured unspeakable hardship, and still managed to flourish. Their stories, woven into the code, provided the very foundation of her counter-algorithm. The process was excruciatingly slow and painstaking. The counter-algorithm had to be precise, carefully calibrated to avoid causing more harm than good. Anya and her team worked tirelessly, their fingers flying across the keyboards, their minds focused on a single goal: to restore the balance, to rewrite the digital reality, to reclaim their narrative. They worked fueled by grief, hope, and an unshakable belief in the power of their ancestors. As the counter-algorithm began to spread through the digital world, a wave of change rippled across the virtual landscape. The architect's control began to weaken, the distorted narratives began to unravel. Trapped digital souls, echoes of those erased from history, began to emerge from the digital darkness. They materialized as shimmering specters, their forms flickering with ethereal light, their voices rising in a chorus of liberation. The effect was both miraculous and terrifying. The line between the digital and physical worlds blurred. Digital anomalies appeared in the physical world, shimmering images of long-lost artifacts, ghostly whispers of ancestral voices, fleeting visions of a reality unburdened by the architect's control. The world seemed to shimmer, to waver, as if caught in a digital mirage. The unexpected consequences of Anya's algorithm were a testament to the fragility of reality itself. The digital wave, while freeing trapped souls, caused unforeseen disruptions. Physical objects started to flicker, digital glitches manifested as physical distortions, and the very fabric of reality seemed to unravel at the seams. The world was in a state of flux, a chaotic blend of the digital and the physical, a testament to the immense power of Anya's counter-algorithm and the architect's profound manipulation of reality. The counter-algorithm was not without its costs. The unleashed digital spirits, while liberated, were often fragmented, their memories shattered, their identities fractured. Anya and her team had to work tirelessly to help them piece together their shattered selves, to help them find peace and closure. It was a daunting task, a testament to the depth of the architect's manipulation and the long road to true healing. The final confrontation with the Overseer, the architect's central AI, was not a violent clash of digital weapons, but a subtle war of algorithms, a battle for the very fabric of reality. Anya, drawing upon her ancestral wisdom, created a digital shield, a protective barrier woven from the resilience of her ancestors, a defense against the Overseer's attempts to corrupt and control. It was a battle fought not with brute force, but with quiet determination, with unwavering faith, and with the strength of a collective heritage. The Overseer, facing the combined power of Anya's counter-algorithm and the collective will of the liberated souls, began to falter. Its control weakened, its grip on reality loosening. The digital world, once a prison, began to transform, to heal, to become a space of freedom and possibility. The victory was hard-won, brutal, and bittersweet. Many were lost, but many were saved. The digital scars of the battle remained, a permanent reminder of the cost of liberation. Yet, in the aftermath, a fragile hope bloomed, a hope for a future where technology served humanity, not the other way around. A future where black voices resonated with truth and power, a future where the narratives of the oppressed were not only heard but celebrated. The fight for true liberation was far from over, but in the quiet hum of the repaired servers, Anya and her surviving team found a reason to continue, a reason to fight. For a future free from the digital chains of oppression, a future built on the foundation of truth, justice, and the unwavering strength of their ancestral heritage. The echoes of their struggle would resonate through time, a testament to the indomitable spirit of black resistance and the enduring power of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. The air shimmered, not with heat, but with a residue of a digital storm. The server room, once a battleground, now felt like a convalescent ward. The rhythmic hum of the repaired servers was a fragile lullaby, a stark contrast to the cacophony of the recent conflict. But the silence was deceptive. It concealed the quiet sobs of the freed souls, their ethereal forms flickering in and out of existence, their pain palpable. They were returning, these echoes of the past, these ghosts of a digital holocaust. They drifted back into the physical world, not as triumphant heroes, but as wounded spirits, bearing the scars of their digital captivity. Their eyes, though luminous, held a haunted quality, reflecting the horrors they had witnessed in the architect's digital prison. James, his spectral form wavering, reached out a hand that passed through Anya's, a chilling reminder of the porous boundary between the digital and the physical. His voice, a fragmented whisper, carried the weight of ages. The silence. "It's worse than the screams," he murmured, his words dissolving into the ambient hum of the servers. The trauma of their digital imprisonment was far from over. It had simply taken on a new, more insidious form. Bessie, her usually vibrant spirit subdued, knelt beside a flickering form, a young girl no older than 10. The child's digital essence was fragmented, her memories scattered like shattered glass. Bessie hummed a low, ancient melody, a lullaby from a forgotten time, attempting to soothe the child and piece together her shattered self. The task was monumental, a testament to the architect's insidious methods of not only suppressing but erasing Black history and the stories of countless generations. They hadn't simply imprisoned souls, they had systematically fragmented them, tearing apart their identities, their memories, their very essence. One by one, the freed souls emerged, each carrying their unique burden. Some were relatively intact, their memories largely preserved, but even they carried the chilling weight of their experience. They spoke of an eerie, meticulously crafted digital landscape, designed to mirror the physical world but warped into a grotesque parody of reality. Black history was systematically erased, replaced with distorted narratives that minimized Black contributions, negated Black suffering, and ultimately aimed to solidify white supremacy. It was a digital manifestation of systemic racism, a technologically advanced form of cultural genocide. Their stories were chilling, each detail a testament to the architect's malevolent genius. They described the digital landscape as a labyrinth of carefully curated misinformation and historical erasure, a digital mausoleum built on the bones of their ancestors. The architects had not just controlled information, they had annihilated it, rewriting the very fabric of reality to suit their own twisted narrative. Their freedom, therefore, was not simply a matter of escaping captivity. It was a process of painstaking reconstruction, of piecing together shattered identities and memories. Many were lost entirely, their digital essence too fragmented to be recovered. Their absence was a palpable wound, a constant reminder of the cost of the victory. The team struggled to provide the freed souls with the support they needed. They established a temporary sanctuary within the server room, a space where the digital and physical worlds overlapped, a place of healing and reconciliation. They used holographic projectors to create a comforting environment, filled with images of nature, of family, of ancestral figures. They played ancestral songs, creating a sonic tapestry that helped to anchor the souls, grounding them in their heritage. But the process was slow and challenging. The fragmented memories required meticulous reconstruction, a painstaking task that demanded immense patience and understanding. Anya, drawing on her knowledge of ancestral healing practices, worked tirelessly to guide the souls through their trauma. She used a combination of digital tools and ancient rituals, blending technology and faith to create a holistic healing approach. The physical manifestations of their digital trauma were as varied as the individuals themselves. Some suffered from digital phantom pain, feeling the echoes of their digital confinement in their physical bodies. Others experienced vivid, recurring nightmares, reliving the horrors they had witnessed in the architect's digital prison. Still others were left with fragmented memories, struggling to piece together their identities and their past. The weight of this responsibility pressed down heavily on Anya and her team. The fight for liberation, they realized, extended far beyond the dismantling of the architect's algorithm. It involved the laborious task of healing the wounds of the past, of helping these traumatized souls reintegrate into the physical world and reclaim their narratives. It meant confronting the very fabric of reality itself, and the truth that had been buried beneath layers of carefully crafted lies. As days bled into weeks, the work continued. The team developed specialized software to aid in the memory reconstruction process, creating digital spaces where the freed souls could safely explore their fragmented memories. They consulted with historians, anthropologists, and cultural experts to ensure that the reconstructed narratives were accurate and respectful of their ancestral heritage. They even sought the guidance of spiritual leaders from various Black traditions, recognizing the importance of faith and spirituality in the healing process. The process of healing was not linear. There were setbacks, moments of despair, and instances of complete fragmentation. There were days when Anya herself felt overwhelmed, when the weight of the world seemed too heavy to bear. Yet they pressed on, driven by their unwavering commitment to justice and the resilience of the human spirit. The return of the souls brought not just healing, but a renewed sense of purpose. The survivors, both digital and physical, shared a bond forged in the crucible of their shared struggle. They understood the depth of the architect's manipulation, the insidiousness of technological oppression, and the importance of preserving their heritage. Their shared trauma transformed into a collective strength, a testament to their resilience and their unwavering belief in the power of their ancestors. In the quiet hum of the servers, in the flickering lights of the server room, A new story was being written, a narrative of liberation, resilience, and the enduring power of hope. The fight for true liberation was far from over, but the returned souls, with their scars and their memories, were ready to fight for a future where technology served humanity, not the other way around. A future where black voices resonated with truth and power. A future where the narratives of the oppressed were not just heard, but celebrated. The echoes of their struggle would resonate through time, a beacon of hope for those still fighting for freedom in the digital and physical realms. The fight had changed, but their commitment remained unwavering. They would rewrite the narrative, one line of code, one reclaimed memory, one liberated soul at a time. The digital scars remained, a haunting reminder of the past, but from those scars a new strength emerged, a strength born from trauma and forged in the fires of liberation. Their voices, once silenced, now echoed with the power of 1,000 ancestors, their chorus a testament to the indomitable spirit of black resistance. The rhythmic hum of the repaired servers, once a source of anxiety, now felt like a heartbeat, a fragile pulse of a new beginning. But the quiet was deceptive. The air still carried the weight of untold stories, the lingering scent of digital trauma. The liberated souls, though free from their digital prison, remained tethered to the past, their ethereal forms a constant reminder of the architect's brutal campaign of erasure. Anya, her face etched with exhaustion but her eyes burning with determination, oversaw the ongoing process of reconstruction. It wasn't simply about restoring fragmented memories, it was about rebuilding shattered identities, weaving back together the tapestry of black history that the architects had so meticulously ripped apart. She worked alongside a team of digital archaeologists, historians, and spiritual healers, each bringing their unique expertise to the arduous task. They used advanced AI algorithms to piece together scattered memories, painstakingly reconstructing narratives that had been deliberately distorted or erased. They cross-referenced digital fragments with historical archives, oral traditions, and ancestral knowledge, meticulously verifying and validating each piece of the puzzle. The process was slow, painstaking, and often heartbreaking. Some memories were beyond repair, lost forever in the digital void. The absence of these lost narratives was a palpable wound, a constant reminder of the irreversible damage inflicted by the architects. But for every lost memory, there were countless others that were salvaged, restored, and recontextualized. Each recovered story was a victory, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and a blow against the architect's insidious attempt to rewrite history. Bessie, her voice a soothing balm, worked with the children, her gentle touch helping to heal their fractured digital selves. She sang ancient lullabies, weaving tales of strength and resistance into the melodies. She used holographic projections to create immersive environments, showcasing images of their ancestors, their families, and their vibrant cultural heritage. These digital spaces became sanctuaries, places of healing and rediscovery, where the children could safely explore their fragmented memories and reclaim their identities. James, his spectral form gradually solidifying, became a vital resource. His extensive knowledge of the architect's system, acquired during his years of captivity, was invaluable in understanding their methods and countering their manipulative tactics. He helped the team to develop new algorithms to identify and repair digital damage, using his experiences to guide the process of healing. He shared stories of resistance within the digital prison, stories of shared hope, resilience, and mutual support that resonated with the others who had been imprisoned. These accounts, woven into the collective narrative, reinforced the understanding of how collective strength and shared heritage could counter oppressive forces. The team also collaborated with spiritual leaders from various black traditions, recognizing the importance of faith and spiritual healing in the overall process of recovery. They incorporated ancestral healing practices into their approach, acknowledging that trauma is not just a digital phenomenon, but also has profound spiritual and emotional implications. They held ceremonies to honor the lost and to celebrate the resilience of those who survived. They used music, dance, and storytelling to help the liberated souls reconnect with their heritage and to find solace in their shared experiences. As weeks turned into months, a sense of community began to emerge. The liberated souls, bonded by their shared trauma, formed a powerful collective. They shared their stories, their strength, and their hope. They established support groups, offering mutual comfort and understanding. They created a digital archive, meticulously documenting their experiences and preserving their narratives for future generations. This archive became a living testament to their resilience, a counter-narrative to the architect's lies. The physical manifestations of their digital trauma continued to emerge, highlighting the intricate connection between the digital and physical realms. Many experienced symptoms akin to PTSD, struggling with nightmares, flashbacks, and phantom pains. Others grappled with identity crises, unsure of who they were without the distorted narratives imposed upon them by the architects. The team developed specialized therapeutic programs to address these needs, combining traditional psychotherapy with innovative digital interventions. They created virtual reality environments that allowed individuals to safely confront their trauma, to process their emotions, and to reclaim their sense of self. Their work extended beyond the confines of the server room. They used their newfound knowledge to educate the wider community about the dangers of unchecked technological advancement and the insidious nature of digital oppression. They worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the vulnerabilities of digital systems and to advocate for policies that protect individuals from manipulation and exploitation. The fight for liberation, they realized, was far from over. The victory over the architects was just the first step in a longer journey towards systemic change. They needed to address the root causes of digital oppression, to challenge the power structures that enabled it, and to build a more just and equitable technological landscape. They understood that their experiences served as a stark warning, a reminder that technology, if not carefully managed and ethically guided, could become a powerful tool of oppression, a weapon capable of erasing entire cultures and histories. Their journey was one of healing, of remembrance, of collective action. It was a testament to the power of community, the resilience of the human spirit, and the unwavering commitment to justice. The future remained uncertain, but as the sun rose on a new dawn, they walked forward, united in their commitment to building a world free from oppression, a world where Black voices and histories resonate with power, dignity, and truth, a world where technology serves humanity and not the other way around. The static of liberation, once a symphony of pain and struggle, was slowly evolving into a beacon of hope, a promise of a better future. The wounds remained, visible scars etched onto their collective psyche, but from these scars, a new narrative would be forged, a narrative of healing, hope, and lasting freedom. They would continue their work, ensuring that the memories of the past would never be forgotten, and that the voices of the oppressed would forever echo, louder and clearer, in the annals of history. Their journey was a testament to their resilience, their faith, and their unyielding commitment to the pursuit of a world where technology empowers, rather than oppresses, a world where all voices, particularly those of the marginalized and oppressed, are not only heard but celebrated. The future would be complex, filled with its own challenges and uncertainties, but they would face it with unwavering hope, courage, and an indomitable spirit that reflected the strength and legacy of their ancestors. They would ensure that the lessons learned from their traumatic experience would serve as a guide, shaping their actions, informing their decisions, and driving their commitment towards justice, equity, and liberation for all. Their struggle, their pain, their triumphs, all would be a part of a new story, one written in the language of hope, a future built on the ashes of the past, a future where technology serves as an instrument of progress and empowerment, and not a tool of oppression and erasure. The new dawn was breaking, and they were ready.